The idea of justice has accompanied humanity since the earliest records of civilization. In virtually every culture, men and women have sought to understand what it means to act correctly in difficult situations. However, when faced with decisions involving human lives, we realize that the answer is rarely simple. What seems right at first glance can reveal unexpected consequences when analyzed more deeply. It is precisely this type of reflection that marks the beginning of this philosophical journey, inviting each person to abandon automatic responses and explore the principles that truly guide their moral choices. Imagine you are driving a train at high speed when suddenly you realize that the brakes have completely failed. Ahead of you, 5 workers are performing maintenance on the tracks and will not have enough time to escape. There is only one alternative: divert the train to a secondary track where only one worker is present. The decision must be made in a few seconds without time to consult anyone or assess all the consequences. This scenario, known as the famous trolley problem, challenges our ability to decide between two equally tragic options and highlights one of the greatest dilemmas in moral philosophy. When this situation is presented to different groups of people, most say they would divert the train to save 5 lives, even knowing that one person would die as a direct consequence of the decision. For many, preserving as many lives as possible seems to represent the most rational and morally acceptable alternative. This response is based on the idea that the final consequences are the most important aspect of the choice. After all, if a decision reduces the total number of deaths, it would seem to produce a more beneficial outcome for society as a whole. However, not everyone agrees with this conclusion. A significant portion of people believe that deliberately causing someone's death can never be considered morally correct, regardless of the benefit obtained. According to this perspective, allowing a person to be sacrificed for the sake of others opens the door to dangerous justifications, capable of legitimizing atrocities committed at different points in history. If we accept that the end always justifies the means, where exactly do we draw the line to prevent even greater injustices? This question reveals that the problem goes far beyond a simple mathematical operation involving human lives. It is precisely at this point that philosophy demonstrates its full importance. Instead of offering ready-made answers, it compels us to question the reasons that underpin our convictions. Why do we consider an action correct? Are we only evaluating its results, or do we also take into account the intention and the manner in which it is carried out? These questions seem simple, but they have profound implications for virtually every aspect of human coexistence. From personal decisions to the drafting of laws, public policies, and judgments made by courts around the world. To make the dilemma even more challenging, imagine a different situation. You are not driving the train. Instead, you observe the entire scene from a bridge located above the tracks. Beside you is a large man. You realize that if you push him onto the tracks, the impact will be enough to stop the train before it hits the 5 workers. The end result would be exactly the same as in the first scenario. One person would die to save 5 others. However, this time, most people respond in a completely different way. When confronted with this new hypothesis, few people accept pushing the man off the bridge. Although the number of lives saved remains exactly the same, the act of directly causing someone's death evokes a strong feeling of rejection. This raises a fascinating question. Why do we accept diverting the train but reject pushing a person if both cases produce the same numerical result? This difference reveals that our moral judgments depend not only on the consequences, but also on how the action unfolds and the degree of direct involvement of the agent. Many argue that there is a fundamental distinction between causing harm indirectly and using a person as an instrument to achieve a specific goal. In the first case, the worker's death occurs as an inevitable consequence of the train's derailment. In the second, the person is transformed into a means to prevent the accident. This seemingly subtle difference evokes intense emotions and shows that our moral conscience attaches enormous importance to individual dignity. For many people, deliberately using a human being as a tool can never be considered acceptable, even in the face of extremely positive results. These thought experiments are not intended to provide definitive answers, but to reveal the invisible mechanisms that guide our decisions. We often believe we know our own values until we are faced with situations that challenge our certainties. The contrast between the two scenarios demonstrates that our moral intuitions do not always follow a uniform logic. At times, we prioritize results. At others, we give greater importance to principles, individual rights, and respect for human life. This tension accompanies virtually all major ethical debates throughout history. As we delve deeper into this reflection, we realize that the true objective of these dilemmas is not to discover who is right or wrong, but to understand how we construct our judgments about justice, responsibility, and morality. Each answer reveals something about our way of perceiving the value of life, the limits of human power, and the complexity of difficult choices. This investigation represents only the beginning of a long philosophical journey in which concepts such as utilitarianism, moral duty, freedom, dignity, and individual rights will be explored in depth, allowing for a much broader understanding of what it truly means to act justly. After reflecting on the initial dilemmas involving the train, a new scenario emerges that transports the discussion to a hospital setting. Imagine a doctor responsible for treating several patients who are victims of a serious accident. Among them, 5 people have serious injuries but have a high chance of survival if they receive immediate care. At the same time, another patient arrives in an extremely critical condition and requires the full attention of the medical team. Resources are limited, time is short, and it is impossible to attend to everyone at once. Once again, a difficult decision must be made. When faced with this type of situation, many people believe that the doctor should prioritize treating the 5 patients, since this would increase the total number of lives saved. This reasoning follows the same logic presented earlier in the trolley problem, choosing the alternative that produces the greatest collective benefit. Although this decision may seem rational from a practical perspective, it continues to evoke emotional discomfort. After all, letting one patient die to save 5 others still represents a profoundly painful choice, fraught with ethical implications. However, philosophy is not content to repeat the same dilemma in different forms. It modifies small details of the story precisely to reveal how our convictions can change in the face of new circumstances. Now imagine another case that occurred in the same hospital. 5 patients are desperately waiting for organ transplants. Each of them needs a different organ to survive. With no donors available, they will all die within a few hours. Meanwhile, a completely healthy man enters the hospital just to have routine checkups without imagining what is about to happen. If we analyze only the numbers, the solution seems simple for those who believe that the final result is the most important aspect. It would be enough to remove the organs from the healthy man to save the 5 patients. A single death would guarantee 5 lives preserved. However, when this hypothesis is presented to people, the vast majority immediately reject this possibility. Very few would accept that a doctor would sacrifice an innocent person to benefit others, even knowing that the final outcome would be much more positive in purely quantitative terms. This reaction reveals something extremely important about the nature of human morality. Although many accept sacrificing a life under certain circumstances, almost no one agrees that an innocent person can be used as a mere instrument to achieve a greater goal. The healthy man did absolutely nothing to deserve this fate. He took no risks, offered no consent, and did not endanger other lives. Removing his organs would mean treating him as a disposable object, completely ignoring his dignity and fundamental rights. It is precisely at this point that 2 of the major currents of moral philosophy begin to emerge. The first of these states that the value of an action depends exclusively on its consequences. if a decision produces more happiness, reduces suffering, and benefits a greater number of people, then it tends to be considered morally correct. This way of thinking became known as consequentialism and profoundly influenced various areas of ethics, economics, politics, and even the development of public policies in different countries. In contrast to this view, a completely different perspective emerges. For many philosophers, there are moral principles that can never be violated, regardless of the results achieved. Certain actions would be wrong by their very nature, even if they produced extraordinary benefits. Deliberately killing an innocent person, for example, would be one of these absolutely forbidden actions. According to this line of thought, morality cannot depend solely on numbers or advantages gained, because some human rights have a value that cannot be negotiated. These two ways of understanding ethics lead to completely different interpretations of virtually all of society's major dilemmas. Whenever we discuss topics such as the death penalty, war, abortion, euthanasia, surveillance, freedom of expression, or the distribution of public resources, we are often, without realizing it, using arguments inspired by these two philosophical traditions. Some people focus their attention on the practical consequences of decisions, while others argue that certain principles should remain unshaken, even when this produces seemingly less efficient results. At this point in the reflection, one of the most influential figures in the history of philosophy emerges: Jeremy Bentham, an English jurist, philosopher, and social reformer. Bentham believed that the purpose of morality was to promote the greatest possible happiness for the greatest number of people. In his view, pleasure and suffering constitute the two fundamental forces that guide human behavior. Therefore, all decisions should seek to increase collective happiness and reduce the total amount of suffering in society. This proposal was called utilitarianism and profoundly transformed modern political thought. While utilitarian ideas gained enormous influence, they also faced intense criticism. After all, to what extent is it acceptable to sacrifice the interest of a minority to benefit the majority? Is there any right that should never be violated, regardless of the advantages gained? These questions remain present in contemporary discussions and demonstrate that the search for justice is far from over. Understanding this conflict between consequences and principles represents an essential step in exploring the ideas of great thinkers such as Bentham, John Stuart Mill, and Immanuel Kant, whose theories continue to shape our understanding of ethics and morality to this day. After understanding the fundamentals of utilitarianism and theories based on absolute principles, we are introduced to a real episode that profoundly marked the history of law and moral philosophy. Unlike the imaginary experiments discussed earlier, this case actually happened and forced courts, jurists, and thinkers to confront extremely delicate issues, known as the case Queen v. Dudley and Stevens. An event that occurred in 1884 remains to this day one of the most studied examples when the subject is the relationship between need, survival, and moral responsibility. It all began when a small vessel encountered a violent storm at sea. The ship ended up sinking, leaving only 4 survivors adrift in a lifeboat, without enough food, practically no drinking water, and completely isolated from the rest of the world. They spent days battling hunger, thirst, and the growing despair of realizing that rescue might never come. With each sunrise, their strength dwindled, while the hope of survival seemed to grow ever more distant. The days turned into weeks. Food had completely run out, and even rainwater was insufficient to keep everyone alive. Among the survivors was Richard Parker, a young cabin boy who, weakened by hunger and dehydration, fell gravely ill after drinking seawater. His physical condition deteriorated rapidly, making it clear to the others that he would hardly survive much longer. It was in this environment of extreme suffering that a proposal emerged that continues to divide opinions to this day. Captain Thomas Dudley began to consider the possibility of sacrificing young Parker so that the others could use his body as food. In his view, The death of a single person would allow 3 others to survive until help arrived. Some of the crew considered holding a draw to make the decision fairer, giving everyone the same chance of being chosen. However, this draw never took place. Without the victim's consent, and without any collective agreement, Dudley and Stevens decided to kill Parker while he was weak and unable to offer any resistance. Thanks to this decision, the 3 survivors managed to stay alive until they were finally rescued a few days later. However, upon returning to England, what seemed to be an act of survival quickly turned into one of the most famous trials in history. The authorities became aware of the events, and both Dudley and Stevens were arrested and formally charged with murder. From that moment on, the discussion ceased to be confined to philosophers and began to occupy the courts of law as well.